In this first video segment for the Grandview Build House for Homes project, we're going to go through the process of creating the main floor plan with the shell, do the dimensioning, and take a look at the room and ceiling heights. I'll then take that floor plan, send it out to the layout page, as you can see on your screen now, talk a little bit about layers and layer sets to help manage the process. Let's go into the program and take a look at the process. Now I've opened up the completed plan in Chief Architect, and you can see the floor plan layout. It's completely furnished, the interior and exterior walls. In the floor plan view, I've created a couple of layer sets. This is one with all of the dimensions on. Sometimes I like to have a view that you might use as a brochure, and I've created a layer set that turns off the dimensions and the different camera callouts that makes it a very clean view. So if you want to use this as a brochure or to send to a client, then I like to have a clean view that looks like this. I'm going to start the process with a blank plan and go through and create the walls and then dimension it. Let me get started. Now I'm going to begin with a template plan, which means there are certain colors with the walls, windows, doors, aspects of the flooring. And when you open a new plan, usually that's using a template that ships with the product, or you can build your own template. When I select the wall, you'll see my tool palette appear over here, and if you double click on the exterior wall tool, I'm actually using a siding 6 wall, which has various layers, but the important one is that the exterior layer on this is going to be a lap siding wall. As I do the interior walls and the other floors, I'm going to actually choose different wall types. Let's begin with this exterior wall. Now when I draw my walls, I'll start usually in a clockwise fashion and work my way around the design. As I do this, and you know an exact dimension, you can always press the tab key and enter an exact dimension. In this case, I'll put in 18 feet. There are a lot of corners in this house, so I'm just going to kind of work my way around clockwise until I finish the outline of the house. I don't really worry too much about the dimensions in most cases as I draw this out, and then when I finish up, I'll finish with the automatic dimensions. So I'll go ahead and speed this up as you watch me create the exterior house. Once you've finished creating the outside shape of the house, there is a tool that I like to use called the Auto Exterior Dimensions. This will automatically place the exterior dimensions to the main wall layer or the stud. You can click on the wall then and move the wall, or simply highlight the wall, click on the dimension, and enter in the value, 11 feet 2 in this case. And I'm just going to kind of make my way around and square up the different dimensions. I'll go ahead and select this wall. Again, you can either click and drag the wall, or you can highlight the dimension and enter in the value. The automatic dimensions can be set to be auto refresh. If you notice, if I move this wall, the dimension doesn't necessarily update. The 12 foot didn't move. Under the defaults, you can change that to be automatic refresh. Under the dimension setting, under auto exterior dimensions, you can check this button to have them automatically refresh, and that way you won't have to do it yourself. Sometimes that is a good tool, but other times I don't like to use it once I get many doors, windows, and other walls in here. Let me go ahead and undo that and move that wall back. Now the automatic dimensions are a great start, but I don't necessarily like the way it's formatted. There's a lot of corners on this house. I'm going to clean those up. But before I clean those up, I'm going to go ahead and place my doors and windows and interior walls so that I can leverage the automatic dimensions, and then we'll go ahead and clean them up so they look more like this. You'll notice my dimensions are in a solid line. Maybe I removed the longer line up here. If I toggle back, you can see the difference on what I've done. But I'm going to clean that up after I've done my doors and windows. Once you have the walls enclosed to form a room, I like to use the camera called the Perspective Floor Overview. This will show you a view from the top down without the ceiling. And you'll notice in this view that the wall type, the lap siding 6, has the right color. The interior wall here has the drywall color, the baseboard molding, and the flooring material. And if you select inside the room, you can see under the structure panel your ceiling heights. It gives you a rough ceiling and a finished ceiling. And then you can also take a look at the floor finish. These are all defaults that I've used. And you can actually set up defaults by room type. If you look under your default setting here, underneath of the floors and rooms, you can come down by room types, and you can choose, in this case for a bathroom, if you want to have your flooring material always be a certain finish, you can come in here and set that material. When you build that room, it will have this material and this thickness associated with it. Now the next process, let's draw the interior walls, and I'll do this in the plan view. And in this case, let's go ahead under the wall tool. I'm going to select the interior wall tool. Again, if you double click on that tool, you can specify what wall type you're going to be using. My default wall type is an interior 4, and I will use that for all of the interior walls and probably come back for the glass shower and the wall that borders the garage and change that wall type to an interior 6 or glass wall, and I'll show you the step that I'll do to take that. Using the interior wall tool, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to begin with the garage area. I'm going to come up. You'll notice an extension snap that goes parallel or perpendicular to the other wall, and then I'm going to draw one more wall that will form my HVAC closet, and then I'll just go ahead and draw that across until it snaps into the other wall. Now the wall that will border between the house and the garage, I want that to be a fire barrier or a 6-inch wall. I'm going to go ahead and select these two walls, and I'm going to make the change on that to be an interior 6 wall. And you'll notice what I've done here in my hatching. I want that to look differently, so I put a hatch on there. You can do that through the Define button, and here's the fill style that I've selected. Back in the 3D view, if I select that room, I'm going to go ahead and change that to be a garage type. And again, this has a default material. If I change that to a garage, watch what happens when I close the dialog and update it. You can see that the flooring material changed from the hardwood to a concrete. Also, the base molding has disappeared out of the room. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing over in this room. Again, double click on it, change it to a garage. In this case, I'm actually going to give it a special room type. I'm going to call it HVAC. That way I can separate the square footage out. And again, if you come into the structure, you can verify that you want to use the default, which will be the concrete floor. Notice that the wall kind of clipped up here because the garage floor is typically provided by the foundation, and when I build the foundation, that's going to fill in this space with a concrete footing or a stem wall, depending on what sort of foundation we use. Let me go back into the floor plan view, select the interior wall tool. I'm just going to come in here and quickly draw out the walls. I'll speed this up so you can watch how I do this, and then we'll come back and revisit a couple of the things. You can see the different interior walls that we've drawn in the 3D overview. Some of these walls are going to be invisible and just used for room definition. This is going to be the living area, and I'm going to raise the ceiling up, and this wall ahead of it is going to be just used for room definition to raise that ceiling and change the flooring material. So I'm going to select that wall, and I'm going to actually mark it to be an invisible wall, and that will allow me to still maintain room definition. If you go ahead and select in this area, you can still see that there's a room, and that allows me to control flooring material and room height. Let's go back to the plan view. I want to change several of these walls to be 6-inch interior walls. Let's go back over to the plan view. Some of the interior 4 walls need to be converted to interior 6 walls, either for structure or for plumbing. Holding my shift key down, I'm going to select those key walls that need to be interior 6, and then I'll make that change. So I'm just holding my shift key down, selecting those key walls that need to be interior 6. Once I have them all selected, I can double click and open them. Under the wall type, we'll change that to an interior 6 wall. Notice the hatching is different. I like to see that in my floor plan view so that it's easy to differentiate. Next, I want to take this wall in here and convert it to a glass shower wall. Let's take a look in 3D. To create a bathroom and a shower, I want a glass wall right in this area. If I were to click and select that wall, you can see that it spans the intersecting wall. There's a break tool once you've selected the wall that I can create a notch right at that intersection and create 2 different wall segments. Once I've done that, I can select that wall and change the wall type, in this case, to be a glass wall. And if you hit define, you can see that my glass wall is 3/8 of an inch. Once that's changed, you'll notice that there is still a molding in this room, and I'm going to remove that for the bath. Go ahead and select inside of the room. Let's change it first of all on the molding tabs to not use the default, and then once that's selected, I can just press the delete button and remove that molding. As long as I'm in here, let's go ahead and name this to be a bath, and let's take a look at the material change and that update. And you can notice that the material changed if I kind of tilt my angle up. There's also another tool. If I go back into the floor plan view to do that same exact operation into the shower area, you can select the room. Once it's selected, there's a tool down here in the lower left hand corner called Match Properties. You can choose which properties you want to match, whether it's the base moldings or the wall colors. I'm going to go ahead and select all in this case. I'm going to go ahead and then click on the other room that I want using this tool down here that's called Apply Properties, and I can come in here and just click that. Notice that it came up with a bath, and in this case I'm going to go ahead and rename that, and we'll just call it a shower area. And then in the 3D view you should be able to see what the change looks like. And you'll notice that the molding is gone, and as well as the flooring material has been changed back in this area for the shower. Now there's a couple more rooms I want to change the floor and ceiling height. One is for the living room in this area right here. Let's double click on it. And I'm going to change the ceiling space to be 12 feet. So in this case, I've already got a 9-foot ceiling. I'm just going to come in here and say plus 36. Hit the tab key. You can see what the update is. Go ahead and say OK. You'll notice that the walls automatically grow in that area to fit that additional 3 feet of space. Again, back in the floor plan view, we can make that same change by selecting the room, doing the match properties, select all, and then we'll just use that load. That way I don't have to do the same operation on both of those. Back in the 3D view. Now for the two rooms adjacent, for the HVAC closet and for this little storage closet, for the purposes of generating the roof, I'm going to raise that ceiling up to be 12 feet as well. And in the floor plan view, if we use that match and apply properties, select one of the rooms that has the ceiling height. And in this case, when you select that tool, all I'm going to do is select ceiling height right here, ceiling elevation. And now when I apply that, we can come over here and click in the rooms. After we say apply properties, we can apply those in these two rooms right here. Notice that they're all created the same gray. I'll create that same thing in the fireplace area. Now that ceiling is consistently 12 feet all the way through here, and you know that it's 12 feet because they're all grayed out. Let's go to the 3D view and take a look. Okay, so I've got the 12-foot ceiling. It didn't adjust the floor height. In that case, I want to go ahead and change that for the garage and that HVAC closet. Perhaps let's go ahead and change the garage. In the garage, I want to lower that 24 inches. We have a maximum slope from the driveway up to the garage, and by lowering this 24 inches, that will help minimize that slope going up. It will require us to put a few steps in. You can select the garage room and open that up on the floor, put in minus 24 inches. You'll see the pulse story update, and let's go ahead and close that. And you can see that that dropped it. If you turn on the glass house view, you can actually see through the platform that we've created that drop right in here. Now the room adjacent to the garage for the HVAC closet, if I kind of zoom in here, it has a concrete floor. I'm going to put the HVAC materials in there, and I'm actually going to remove that concrete by changing it back to a closet. And then on the structure panel, really I don't need a finished floor in that HVAC closet, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. That's just going to leave a subfloor in here. That way I can run my materials underneath of there. And again, if you want to remove the molding out of that room, you can remove the molding out. Now that's all of the floor and ceiling heights that I'm going to make changes. I'm going to come in later and put a tray ceiling in the master bedroom over here, put a shed ceiling in the kitchen, and I'll save that when we get to the ceiling videos. Let's go back and take a look at the dimensioning now. Once you have your floor plan in position, I like to then send that out to scale to the layout sheet. Here's what my finished version looks like, and even though we haven't done the doors and windows and a lot of the sections, I like to start the process. One of the things that I always make sure is I have the right layer set turned on. In this case, I've created a layer set called Floor Plan Set. It has the dimensions on. I also have a version called the Floor Plan Shell, which turns off and cleans up the view quite a bit. So it turns off the dimensions. I sometimes will use this type of a view to create a brochure look. Let's go ahead and turn that layer set back on to the floor plan set. And once I've got that set up, I'm going to go ahead and open up my layout template that has some basic information in here. This is 24 by 36. And from the floor plan view, you can come in here, and under the File menu, there is a Send a Layout. This will preserve that layer set, and then once you can specify what the scale is. So I'm going to go ahead and send that to page 4, which is the current page that I'm on. You can always change that page number if you're not on that page. I always make sure that make a copy of the active layer set is not turned on. I like to manage my own layer sets. And then the scaling, I usually send that out at 1/4 inch for this equals a foot. Go ahead and position that on the layout sheet. A lot of times that will just come in on the center. I'll select that. Sometimes hold my control key down. That gives me a little bit more flexibility. Position that where I want it to be on the layout. And then the other thing I'll do is from my 3D view, let's go ahead and adjust our camera a little bit, is send that out to the layout. You can send 3D views out there under Send a Layout, same type of deal. And in this case, when you have a 3D or an elevation view, you can send it as a live view, which allows you to get different cameras. There is really no scaling with a perspective view, and we'll go ahead and send that. And you can see that it has positioned there. And I'll just go ahead and slide that down, and then if you hold your corner corners, you can then kind of shape that and position it so it's not stepping on your dimensions in that way. Now if you look at my final of my layout, I've actually used once I have all the accessories in here, and I changed my camera style to be the watercolor camera, and that's because I'm using the live view. Well, that wraps up creating the main floor plan for the house. We created the exterior walls, put our exterior dimensions in using the automatic exterior dimension tool, and then I used the interior tool beginning with interior 4, and then I adjusted some of the walls to either be a 6-inch wall or a glass shower wall, and then adjusted some of the room and ceiling heights, and then sent it out to layout.